Houston. Houston, we have a problem. DJ Apollo has landed. I repeat, DJ Apollo has landed at Hitmix 88.9 WEIU.
Welcome to the Tales of Music and Film podcast. I am DJ Apollo, and today we will be covering an album I have been waiting weeks to cover. This is now one of my new favorite albums of all time, and to say I'm excited to review it is quite the understatement. The album that I will be covering today is Rush's Moving Pictures. Now, Rush is a brand new band that I've been spending the last year listening to. I've been trying to broaden my horizon with all kinds of new bands. Currently, I'm listening to, like I said, Rush, Foo Fighters, and The Police. And I've been hearing all kinds of amazing new material. Music is just a beautiful thing, and there's just so much to choose from, and there's never not enough. There's always new stuff to listen to, and just music, it's just a beautiful thing, how there's just so many beautiful songs and bands to choose from. And Rush is no exception at all. They do not disappoint whatsoever. They are now one of my favorite bands of all time. Just what a magnificent band and what a legacy it left behind. So my history with Rush is that I got into them about a couple years ago. I was trying to find new stuff to listen to, and my dad has been listening to Rush since like the 80s. And he let me borrow his 2-disc collector's edition that he had in his CD collection, and I started to listen to it. When I started to listen to that, my ears could not believe what they were hearing. This music was unlike anything I've ever heard of before. The lyrics that I heard on so many of these songs were just breathtaking. The instrument play, and most of all, the drums, were unlike anything I'd ever heard before. I knew right away that these musicians in this band they knew what they were doing. And my gosh, I was correct. So that is my history with the band, and the more I listened to them, I eventually got into their albums. And among the albums that I like, my favorites are 2112, which came out in 1976. And it's like another famous record by them that most fans will name as one of their favorites. It's a fantastic record. The whole album is numbered in Roman numerals, and it has that 70s sound and feel. Great record. Highly recommend you check that one out. The title track, 2112, I regard it as one of the greatest instrumental tracks I've ever heard. It's breathtaking. That song is just straight up 4 minutes of some of the best instrument play I've ever seen. And I would go on to listen to Fly By Night, which was released in 1975, and that's another great record. Fly By Night is another fantastic song that is definitely worth a listen. And Rush's very first album was released in 1974, and it was titled Rush, and my favorite songs off of that album was Working Man, which is one of their first hits. Great, fantastic song. And a little history about Rush themselves. So Rush was a Canadian rock band formed in Toronto in 1968. I thought it was 73 before I started this recording. I had no idea the band was that old. So like I said, they were formed in Toronto in 1968 by guitarist Alex Lifeson, drummer Jack Rutsey, and bass guitarist and vocalist Jeff Jones, who was immediately replaced by bassist and vocalist Geddy Lee. And the drummer John Rutsey would be replaced with Neil Peart, and then there's your lineup. So the three main guys of Rush, Rush's career spanned over almost 5 decades. The members of Rush are Geddy Lee, Neil Peart, and Alex Lifeson. Alex Lifeson was the lead guitar player, Neil Peart was the drummer, and Geddy Lee was the bassist / vocalist / keyboard player. Now, all three of these guys, so before we get into the album itself, just a little history for you. Rush is a very, might I say, unique band. And when you look up these guys' history, they're in an extreme rare situation where this band had no drama. Like, the band was never in any danger of breaking up at any time. There was no drama, no hatred or bitterness, none of that whatsoever. They had a very calm career. It was just the three of them were best friends who were in a band together, just writing songs and just having fun, doing what they were meant to do. They didn't take themselves very seriously. And one of my favorite things about Rush is the members themselves. All three of these guys are just genuinely good, intelligent, and humble human beings. All three of them are they're just nice guys. There's nothing else you can really say about them. When you watch these guys in interviews, it's like they've never had one bad day ever. They always show up with a huge smile on their face, ready to answer any question their interviewers have. Just amazing guys. And they're very proud of their careers, and they don't think of themselves as like icons. They're just three regular guys who love making music. And that's so cool to me, that they didn't let their egos get the better of them. They knew who they were, and they were doing what they love. And their sense of humor, I'm telling you right now, is unmatched. Like, there's literally compilation videos on YouTube of clips of them over the years of touring, and they're some of the funniest musicians I've ever seen. Like, especially Alex Lifeson. That guy is an absolute goofball, and I am here for it. His sense of humor is so funny. I'm telling you guys, all three of these guys are just beautiful human beings. Amazing guys. I would love to get a chance to meet them. So like I said earlier, the band retired in 2017 after finishing up their 40th anniversary tour. Not long after, Neil Peart, the drummer, was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away from it in 2020. Neil Peart was 67 years old when he passed away. He was in his late 60s. I'll never forget. So I was the one who informed my dad about his passing. And my dad was completely shocked. He had just gone home from work, and I told him about it, and he was in complete shock, like I was too, because this is around the time that I started listening to him. And yeah, it was a big loss to everybody, because Neil was a huge inspiration. Like, he inspired generations to come of new drummers. Like, I can't begin to tell you how many drummers were influenced by Neil's drum play over the years. You listen to him on any album, his drum fills and the way he plays is unlike anything I've ever heard of. When he drums, it sounds like there's three different guys on this giant drum set, but it's just one man. The way he does it is so insane. He was extremely precise about his drum fills. And the other thing that really blew my mind was how focused he was. If you look up any concert with him, he's in the zone the whole 2-hour runtime. Like, he's not concerned about anything else. In that moment, all of his focus is that he nails every hit perfectly on every song, every show he does. And it's just so crazy to me. So yeah, to say he was extremely precise is an understatement. So now we move on to the album itself. So before we continue, to give you an idea on Rush's sense of humor, just one more thing. This is one of my favorite things they did. So one time, a news article wrote a story about the band, and the article, the person who wrote it said that watching them perform live he said it was the equivalent of watching clothes dry. So Rush, I believe, for every tour they did after they heard about that article, they had washing machines and dryers on the stage, actually on the stage, actually being used while they were performing. I just thought that was the funniest thing. Of all the stage props, washing machines. It's just like, that doesn't tell you like how awesome their sense of humor was. Just so that right there, which is the funniest thing to me. So Moving Pictures is the 8th studio album by the Canadian progressive rock band Rush. It was released on February 12th, 1981 through Anthem Records after touring to support their previous album, which was Permanent Waves, and it was released in 1980, and I hear that one is a good record. I need to check that one out sometime. Around the time the band started to write and record new material in August of 1980 with their co-producer Terry Brown, they continue to write songs with a more radio-friendly format featuring tighter song structures and songs of shorter length compared with their earlier albums. Moving Pictures received a positive reception from current and retrospective music critics and became an instant commercial success, reaching number 1 in Canada and number 3 in both the United States and the United Kingdom. It remains Rush's highest-selling album in the United States, with 5 million copies sold. Limelight, Tom Sawyer, and Vital Signs were released as singles across 1981, and the instrumental track YYZ was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best Rock Instrumental Performance. Rush auditioned some of the songs on a tour before recording the album, and they recorded it from September 11th to October 1st, 1980. Then the band supported the album with a tour, which lasted from February to July of 1981. So by this time that they were recording Moving Pictures, they already had 7 albums out. They had already established themselves as a magnificent band. And this is around the time that they started to change up, I think, their sound a little bit. And they started to get more tight with their songwriting. And that's great. So, I mean, you know, when you're a band, you got to know when to change things up and try out new things. Like some bands that works and some don't. But with Rush, when they changed out their sound a little bit for this recording, it paid off extremely, extremely well. And Moving Pictures is just a beautiful record. And one of my favorite things about it are just the songs themselves, because the songs on this record have really stood the test of time. Now, of the songs on this album, my personal favorites is the opening track, Tom Sawyer. Now, Tom Sawyer is basically like Rush's. It's basically like AC/DC's Back in Black, where it's like this is like Rush's one of their most played songs, and I'm pretty sure for even like non-music fans, like they'll know what Tom Sawyer is. I'm pretty sure it's played on the radio like all the time. And to say that it's a fantastic track is an extreme understatement. This song just has so many things going for it. And one of my favorite things is there's this amazing compilation video on YouTube of all these different YouTube channels of people listening to this song for the very first time. And I love seeing their reactions. They are just blown away with all 3 of the members of Rush, with the insane guitar and bass playing, the keyboard playing, Neil's drumming. It's just like watching their jaws drop as they're listening to this masterpiece unfold before their very eyes. It's just it's so cool to me. It's like now they're experiencing what you went through when you listened to it for the first time. The song just has everything going for it. I love the lyric play. I love the different instruments on this. It's so amazing. Like Geddy Lee's voice is so amazing. He has like one of those unique like higher pitched voices, in my opinion, that it's just unmatched. I love the way he sounds on this record. But Tom Sawyer is a fantastic song, but DJ Apollo here, my personal favorite song is Limelight. Now, Limelight, I'm going to say right now, if you're ever going on a long road trip and you need a good soundtrack, I highly recommend that you add Limelight to your playlist. Whether it be on Spotify or YouTube, Limelight, it is one of the most perfect songs I've ever heard in my life. It's got everything going for it. I love that early 80s sound it's got going. Alex's guitar play on this really stands out compared to other things I've heard him play on. Alex Lifeson has even said that he considers Limelight one of Rush's best songs, and he says that particular track holds his best guitar solo, and I agree with that. His guitar solo on this is so breathtaking. Words do not do it justice. You just have to listen to it for yourself. It's a fantastic track. The whole 5 minutes feels like 3 minutes. Whenever the song's over, you just want to listen to it over and over and over again. And the story behind this song is Neil Peart actually wrote the lyrics for this one. He actually was a huge contributor to a lot of the lyric writing for Rush's songs. The guy was a huge reader. Like Neil, like all three of them loved to read books. Neil especially, he loved to read. I even heard this funny story once where they were on a tour once and there was a party going on, and a friend of theirs on the tour went up to one of the hotel rooms to get the guys to see if they wanted to go hang out at the party. And their friend opens the door and he finds all three of them sitting in a room together just reading books. I just thought that was the funniest thing. That is such a Rush thing. I just like can you imagine any other bands being caught just sitting there just casually reading a book? I just find that so funny to me. I can't imagine any other bands being caught doing that. I just find that extremely funny. Like all three of them, like I said, were big readers. He especially. If you watch videos of him throughout the years of touring, he just liked to sit down and read books. And he was just a huge influence. The way he writes his lyrics, it's like each song is telling this small little 3-minute story, and it's just so cool to listen to it. Limelight, his inspiration for his track is Neil venting out these struggles of being a famous musician. My favorite lyric in this song, it goes like this. It goes, I can't pretend a stranger is a long-awaited friend, which is him talking about interactions with the fans over the years. And that lyric has always stuck with me, because that right there explains the story of the entire song. It's hard being in, like, Neil was a little bit introverted. He liked his privacy a lot. Like, to give you an idea on how big he was on his privacy, no one knew about his cancer until around the time he passed away. He kept it a secret. Getty and Alex knew about it, but he told them not to let anyone else know. I mean, Neil's family knew, but they wanted to keep it a secret. Like, I was in 2017, Geddy Lee and Alex Lifeson inducted the band Yes into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Neil was supposed to be there, but when they came out on stage, they just said Neil was busy and he couldn't make it, hiding the fact that Neil was extremely sick and he couldn't make it. But it just shows you right there like how tight these guys were. The three of them were brothers, and they looked out for each other like all the time. And Neil liked his privacy, like I said, and the constant fan encounters and all that probably got to him a lot, but he dealt with it in his own way, and he vented it out a little bit with the song Limelight, which is pretty intriguing. And another song on here that I was a huge fan of is Red Bargetta, and this particular song is really good too. What I like about it, it's like it mixes the tone a lot, and when I listen to this particular song, it starts off slow, and then it does this thing where it's like goes slow, gets fast again, and it slows down. It's like it's such a beautiful track, and I think I consider it to be one of Rush's most underrated songs. Like, no one really talks about this one. I love the guitar play on this one, and it really stands out from a crowd. So, like I said, this song is called Red Bargetta, and it's a fantastic track. I like listening to it. It's a very good track, extremely underrated, and I love the guitar and bass play on it. Sorry. Ugh. And just a all-around good track. So those are the three songs to me that really stand out, and some more basic information for you regarding this album. Moving Pictures was played in its entirety. So Moving Pictures was played in its entirety during Getty's visit to Rick Ringer's radio show on Chum FM in Toronto on February 11th, 1981. The album was released literally the following day on February 12th. The Kerrang! Magazine listed the album at number 43 among the 100 greatest heavy metal albums of all time. The Rolling Stone had listed Moving Pictures at number 10 on the 2012 Readers poll, your favorite prog rock albums of all time. The album also was picked for number 3 on the 2015 list, 50 greatest prog rock albums of all time, and it was right behind Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which was at number 1. And the album was also put to number 379 on the 2020 edition of its 500 greatest albums of all time, which is pretty sweet. Moving Pictures belongs on that list, without a doubt. In 2014, readers of the Rhythm voted Moving Pictures the greatest drumming album in history of progressive rock. I mean, like, come on. Is that even genuinely a surprise? Like, I can't begin to express how amazing Neil's drum fills are on this. Words do not do it justice. You just got to look it up for yourself. Like, and that brings me to my next topic that I really want to discuss. Like, if you want to see how amazing these songs are, you need to see them play it live. The album sounds beautiful, but when you see, like, Rush, I'll give you an example. Tom Sawyer. You want to see how difficult it is playing that song live? Neil even came out and said that one of the most tricky songs for him to play live is Tom Sawyer. Because with that one, there's a lot of fast fills that he has to remember, and the beats, it's hard to keep up with. And I've seen people do drum tutorials on YouTube of this particular song, and it's not easy. I mean, most songs aren't, but this one in particular, it's a tricky one. It's all about mastering and being really precise and really staying focused. And with this particular song, Geddy, he did this really cool thing that I never saw a musician do before, switching instruments like during the song. So Geddy would play his bass guitar, and then he would switch to keyboard. He'd have the keyboard right in front of him, and then he would play bass for a while, then he would switch to keyboard. It was so unreal. The ability to do that through the song, just like is this guy human? Like, he has to be a robot. How is he doing that? Just like I said, like, these guys knew how to play multiple things at once. You got Alex on his lead guitar going over to these different pedals all the time to switch up the sound a little bit. It's just like, dude, the amount of things that these guys remembered to do when doing these songs live is so uncanny. It's like, you want to see the talent these three gentlemen had, you got to look them up doing live shows. It is insane. I'm so mad I'm never going to get to see that. But thank goodness for YouTube. I can look up any of their shows and just have my breath taken away. Just massive talent. And another interesting fact is that Moving Pictures, in a knockout-style Facebook poll conducted last year, the album was voted the best album of the 1980s, narrowly beating out Depeche Mode's 1986 album, Black Celebration, to take the win with 52% of the vote. More than 22,100 votes were cast in the final round alone. So that's pretty interesting. And, man, so that's an interesting fact for you. And back on to what I was talking earlier is that Neil's drumming on this is one of my favorite parts about this album particularly. And to say that he was a fantastic drummer is just a complete understatement. And when you listen to him on this album, it's just, man, it is amazing things to hear. And he's going to continue, like, this whole band is going to continue to inspire people to pick up a guitar and just play. Just what an inspiration this album has. And that's really the review of the album. I had such a good time on this one. this album is seriously a beautiful masterpiece, and it's going to continue to influence generations of people to come. And I highly recommend you give this record a listen along with Fly By Night and 2112. This Rush has so many unbelievable albums that have stood the test of time, and it's just fantastic band. And one more amazing fact for you. If you want to get an idea just how big of an inspiration Rush was to the music genre, I would highly recommend you look up when the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame back in 2013. Foo Fighters members Dave Grohl and Taylor Hawkins inducted the band, and I think it was one of the most flawless inductions I had ever seen. Dave and Taylor did not hold back in expressing just how big of an influence Rush was on their music careers. And, Dave talking about how his cousin lended him his copy of 2112, and that's how he got introduced to Rush. It's so cool. And Taylor talking about how Neil was such a huge inspiration for him to learn how to drum. It was such a beautiful thing to see. And it's just watching those two guys just talk about the history they had listening to Rush's music was such a beautiful thing to see. The whole ceremony was captured on YouTube, and it's definitely worth a watch. It shows you how big of an influence Rush was. Just fantastic band. And yeah, that is DJ Apollo's review of Moving Pictures. Fantastic record, and I had a great time reviewing it, and I will see all of you in the next episode. This is DJ Apollo here on the Tales of Music and Film.